G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle, and today I want to talk about doing reviews. Now, I often get asked to do reviews for products, or for STL files by people. This is actually far more complicated than it first appears, so I'd like to talk a little bit about what it's like today, about what some of my pet peeves are, and what my process is. So, starting with the process first, because I think the pet peeves need to stay till the end so you can understand where they're coming from. First thing I'll get is an inquiry from someone. This is because I don't go out looking for them anymore. It's not worth contacting companies for review copies of products because it leads to a potential bias, and also I don't feel good about saying, can you give me free stuff? Really comes down to that, because if you do that, I feel like you're sort of being inclined to give good feedback even if you didn't deserve it. But anyway, when a person does send a request, I'll review it for context, basically, which is looking to see what kind of item it is, if it's relevant to the channel, is it some kind of paid promotion? For example, I've been offered multiple of those like Raid Shadow Legends plugs or multiple 3D printers. One of those I'd gladly take, the other I would not. You take your guess as to which it is. Anyway, a word from our sponsor today, Raid Shadow. No. Now, once I decide that I am indeed interested in a product, I'll reply back and notify the person. I'll ask them what they have in mind, if they do or don't want me to act in a certain way. If they say, do it however you like, then we're in business. But if they say, we want editorial control or something like that, then I'm not interested and I'll decline the project. Now, at this point, everything's going well, so I'll lay out a rough timeline. Usually it's about 2 months from when I start doing something to when I finish it. This is my safety barrier, my window, because I feel I can complete projects in roughly that time frame, because real life just gets in the way. So if they're happy with that, then I will swap my relevant details with them, gather the product, and then we can get on to reviewing. So when it gets to reviewing, if I receive a physical good, I have to treat it, obviously, very differently to a digital good, such as an STL file. With a physical item, I may do an unboxing to review it. If it's a game, think something like Ankh, Gods of Egypt, or Chronicles of Hate, it's going to be treated one way. However, if it's a tool or a device, then I'm going to first use the item and try and misuse it just a little bit to see what the limits of it are. So, when I do my 3D printing reviews, I start out with the unboxing, then I use the machine. I talk about the setup, about putting files into it. That's what makes it into the video, along with the test. I then continue to use it, and I revisit the subject down the line with more relevant updates that confirm my initial impressions or cause me to change my mind after the fact. An example of this is the Halot One Resin 3D printer. It has caused 0 issues for me, despite doing an absolute ton of work over the last 6 months. Now, I have a video in production which talks about it and the bigger brother of it, and how they've performed, which includes a revisit of the Halot One in there. And this is a common theme with my reviews. Where I can, I like to revisit items in order to provide the full picture. Now, that's never going to happen for a model because it's a model. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't change over time. If I already painted it for the first review, well, it's still going to be painted for the second one. With digital files, though, well, again, it's a little different because it's not a physical good. So I'll first download the file, and I then put it into the most basic slicing software that a printer comes with. Usually it's that brand's proprietary slicer. This is because I need to see if the file actually works. I need to work in the software that any person who bought a printer or software in my recommendation would be using. I don't need to review what some 3D printing maestro would do using Lychee. I need to know if Jono, who has his first printer, 0 experience, can use the printer and program with ease. If he cannot, that's the first black mark against it. Once I print the part or parts, I will also try and paint them. Paint tells the story better than blank resin or plastic. I noticed that almost all the 3D printing channels I see on the internet, they print stuff and they show, we printed this 3D vase or we printed this Eiffel Tower or whatever in resin, and good for you, you printed something. Anyone can print something. What does it look like though when you get to the finished product? The finished product is painting it. So that's part of what takes me the 2 months when I do a review. I'm printing stuff at the moment for a couple of different people for different reviews. One of those is one-page rules, and those guys are great over there and know that my system is go print the model, paint the model, show the model. It's really simple and it works. If you try and show something in just blank resin versus paint, it's different. Paint highlights defects. It can cover up minor defects. It gives you an appreciation of the work rather than if I just show you a bunch of bare resin, it can quite literally transform the miniature. So it's important to paint them, in my opinion. Next, I start to record the video. Usually a review has 8 to 10 little segments that are often recorded on different days. So if I'm doing printing, I'm not just going to show one print of one model, I'm going to show multiple parts of the process that'll make up a single clip in the video when it's all edited together. So I'll show you something, say, before I attempt to do it, then after I've done it, to see if I succeeded. I try with most new reviews that I do to talk about the source of the product, noting who gave it to me, if I paid for it or not, and making it obvious if there's potential bias in the review so people going into it can take it on face value. Then I go into using the product. In the case of 3D print files, I like to show the files. I like to add them to a basic slicing program, manipulate them, demonstrate the process, and then print them. I then spend the next part of the video discussing the final product, talk through, and throughout the video I will also go through any issues that I encountered where relevant along the way. Now, a great example of that is the recent video I did on War Sceneries terrain, which was fantastic terrain. And I noted in it how they sent me the files for free, and I went through each of the steps I just listed, such as here's the file, showed it off in the video, showed off their website, showed them how to slice the file, scaling it, printing it, but I also made note of where the file had issues, with the jutting overhang on some parts being a major sore spot for me. And why? Well, it was an easy one to fix for people who designed the file, and it's something that a person who is new to 3D printing is incapable of fixing for themselves, and that was what was important to me. Because if someone watches my review, they don't know that what certain steps I might have gone to if I'm a high-end 3D print user, so I have to make all reviews targeted at the lowest level of skill. A product has to meet a certain level of quality for me. And that's not based on cost, by the way, but it's instead based on the ratio of cost to other similar products. So, as an example, if I get a 10-cent plastic injection molded toy soldier, you know, the kind you get them in a bag of like 100 from a cheap toy store, I'm not going to compare that to a Forge World Primark and say it's low quality. Nor am I going to accuse Forge World of being too expensive compared to that toy soldier. But when I compare Games Workshop to someone like, say, Cool Mini or not, I'm looking at two large companies with talented painters and sculptors. That's basically a direct comparison to me and perfectly valid. Now, to go back to STLs, I'm going to look at one-page rules as very much my sort of go-to for many of the STLs I come across because I've had such a positive experience with them that they've become my expected standard of STL file. So when a product doesn't meet that level, it's obviously going to merit a mention. Now it's time to talk about what I dislike about the reviews process. So the number one most irritating thing is when a company offers you something and then the communication just ceases. I have had no less than 5 different 3D printing brands email me about doing a review, and when I've replied and gone into the effort of laying out a list of what I'd like to do with the item, at some point they just go radio silent. Not a, we are interested in that, not a, we are not interested in that, not a, we've seen your other work, we don't want to be associated with you. No, literally you just get radio silence. And I'm incredibly frustrated by this because although stuff that's free is nice, that's not why I do reviews. I do reviews about the products I'm using because I use them for myself and I want to be honest with my audience. If a company certified account reaches out to me and says they want to work with me, that's great, and then they go radio silent, that's the rudest thing they can do to me. Because how can I then turn around, even with a product I like, and honestly say to my viewers that the company is going to care about them if they can't even communicate with me who they want to talk about their brand? As an example, Creality. Yeah, I'll name them, I'll shame them. Too bad if they don't like it, they shouldn't have annoyed me. As a printer company, I have had nothing but success with the 6 printers of theirs I currently own. All different models and types, traditional filament, Core XY, dual axis stabilized auto leveling to resin monochrome. They see my video on the Hell Up One and like it, and they say, let's work together. And I respond to them. I'm really happy. I'm like, yes, finally, I love your printers. I want to work with you. And they're all on board for 3 or 4 emails and then promptly stop responding to me. Like, suddenly nothing comes back. That is not, it's not how you conduct business. It's not that they saw something they didn't like and they didn't want to work with me. I mean, if they did, that's fine. That's normal. No, they just straight up ghosted me. I reach out to them prior to hosting my event. About August last year, I contact them. I say, look, I'm hosting an event in December. There's reviews relating to your product. All the terrain here is printed on your printers. Wouldn't it be great if you could help out, like maybe just send us some raw materials, like a couple of rolls of filament, something like that, They ask for some details. They say, yeah, we'll offer some price support. And I think, fantastic, because I'm already losing a lot of money by hosting the event in the middle of the pandemic because half the people can't make it that were coming. So if I can have anything to reduce the hit to my pocket, that's awesome. And then, no, radio silence again. The "we would like to work with you" part happened with them twice, as well as the price support fail. So you know what I did? When I had my event, I bought an Anycubic Photon Mono, a competitor printer, out of my own pocket, and I gave that away at the event instead. Sure, lots of people are doing stuff with printers on the net, and I'm sure a ton of people want free stuff and hound these companies all the time. But when a moderate-sized channel is hosting an event featuring dozens of lovingly crafted tables covered in products made from your brand of printer, that's different. You think that's something that would stick out in the crowd and you'd want to showcase. Like, look, if you buy our product, you can do this too at home. That is as good advertising as you can get. Well-painted terrain at a beautiful event with tons of enthusiastic people. That is what you want to see. And they didn't do it. The way they acted there pissed me off. Especially when you look at, there's channels that are half the size of our channel that get given heaps of free 3D printers and such. It's like, I don't care if they don't want to give me free stuff. Just don't message me saying you're gonna and then stop messaging me and going silent. It's just rude. I mean, notice how I no longer put affiliate links to these products in my videos for these printers. Anyway, another pet peeve of mine is sponsorship videos. The Raid Shadow Legends, the mobile and microtransaction market especially. Now, they offer you one of two things usually for those who've never seen one of these emails. One is a link that they'll supply you if you agree, and it gives you a cut of any purchases made by people who buy something after clicking your link. So if you jump on Raid Shadow Legends from a link in my video, spend some money on microtransactions, I can get up to 15% of what you spend. The other option is I can barter a fixed amount per ad shown on the channel. So I say to them, hey, you pay me $40, I'll talk about your content, your game, whatever, at the start of my show. Keep this in mind, that whenever a YouTuber is sitting there saying, here's our video sponsor for today, click the link below to this awesome game, they're getting both money for talking about it, and then they get additional money when you click and buy. Now, I can't describe the level of hate I have for this. The worst opinions people think I have of Games Workshop, you know how people say I mindlessly hate on them and just look for anything they do wrong? Yeah, well, if I do, imagine 5 levels of hell underneath that even. That's how much I hate this practice. I understand why some YouTubers have to shill for this crap. Most YouTubers are either trying to make it, and this is a step along the way, or they have made it, but they're dependent on the product to fund their livelihood. I understand this is an issue, but I'm not funding my livelihood. I make a small amount off YouTube each month and a little off Patreon. This money pays for everything we try and do. Material for printers, for reviews, the printers themselves, computer hardware, computer software. I'm not a professional at this, so a bit of funding towards it is nice because it helps to fund a hobby of mine, which is creating these videos. At the end of the day, I have full-time employment. I am not beholden to sponsorship. Not everyone, though, is so lucky, or, I think more honestly, that not everyone has made the correct choice in trying to be full-time content creators. It's hard work, and you have to toe a certain line to succeed. I lost any chance at that a long time ago, and that's fine, because full-time YouTube would be huge work, and I'm simply not wanting that. Now, for those who do choose that route, though, sponsorship is very real, and the prospect of losing said sponsors is even more real. Channels who sign a non-disclosure agreement and shill Games Workshop stuff, they walk a knife's edge of saying nothing too controversial, whilst also trying to retain some integrity and honesty. And I'm not talking out of circle honesty either, because I go way too far, proportionally all the time, because I'm a counterpoint to the endless positive wow, just wow types of shilling out there. And you come here if you want to know the negatives of something. For the positives, though, you can go somewhere else. There's plenty of it. Anyway, before I get too sidetracked, why don't I do any of that sponsorship? It basically boils down to because mobile game microtransactions, they just enrage me. They're almost always designed to wring disproportionately huge amounts of money for very minimal effort on behalf of the developers from people who may be incapable of realizing they're being manipulated by a game that probably doesn't need to even have excessive microtransactions in the first place. Jim fucking Sterling's son absolutely nailed the scummy corporate practices in these games on his show, The Jimquisition, or her show, The Jimquisition, and so has Upper Echelon Games. I find that combination of videos from those two creators, by the way, sums up my own opinions nicely on it. So if you're interested in more of that, go check them out. Now, these scummy, overly aggressive monetized games, they prey upon people, and I cannot sink to that level. Even if they offer me a lump sum cash payment of 15% of anyone duped into paying, I just can't do it. I don't judge other YouTubers for doing it either, because I understand their reasons why, but I cannot personally bring myself to do it. So I've rejected every single one of these mobile games, and will continue to do so until they stop bloody contacting me. And last on my scum list is reviews being offered, but they really just want sponsorship and a good word, not an actual review. Those who've watched my reviews know they aren't very scathing. Okay, maybe some of Games Workshop's products I might be pretty mean towards, but again, look how much you pay for it, compare it to something relevant, there's a reason. If, a black book would cost $20 and it has the content it does, I'm going to be glowing of it. But if a black book costs nearly $200 and it's a third the size of the last $200 book, then you're going to hear nasty things, right? Common sense. I'm pretty down the line and honest when it comes to proper reviews, and they're labelled as reviews in their own review playlist, which you can see on the screen now. It's called Product Review on the outer circles. 25 videos in it. And it's a different kettle of fish to our other content. It is basically removed of the normal hyperbole on this channel, except for, of course, the Warhammer painting handle reviews, because, fuck it, it's funny. They don't want that kind of video. What some people simply want is for me to show their product, only sing the glowing praises of it. And again, I won't do this. It's not within the left and right arc of my personality. So again, if you want a product reviewed, don't ask if you don't want the honesty. You either have the courage to back yourself and back your product and have faith in it, or if you don't, then what you're saying is you don't have faith in your product, therefore why should I be reviewing it if you think it's faulty? It's that simple. Anyway, that's my thoughts on doing reviews online. I hope this gives, especially people who are starting their own channels or interested in doing so, or want to do reviews and work with sponsors, try and keep some of this stuff in the back of your mind. Mine is not obviously the definitive way of handling things. That's up to you guys, what you think is the right way, and your moral code and mine could be completely different. I am not right here morally. I am only morally right within my own framework of reality. So without getting too philosophical, I think I'm right, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong. That's what it boils down to. Anyway, hope this gives you a good idea of how I operate, and also a bit of an understanding of how some of these reviewers operate, and kind of how to take people who only do positive reviews of stuff and seem to always have the newest expensive thing without seemingly spending money. This probably explains why. Anyway, that's all from me. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you all next time.